Hello, welcome to Screams and Streams, the podcast that looks at the best and worst horror movies as rated on Rotten Tomatoes from 1970 onward. I'm your host, Chad Campbell, and with me is my co-host,
Mike Karen.
Be sure to check us out on Instagram. Our handle is at ScreamStreamPod. Also, check out our website at screamsandstreams.com for more information about all the films we are looking at. Just a warning, if you don't like spoilers, we recommend that you stop listening now, check out the film, and then rejoin us for our discussion. Today, we are looking at Alfred Hitchcock's 1960 film, Psycho. It scored 97% on Rotten Tomatoes. So let's get into it. Mike, can you give us our summary?
All right. The plot summary on the IMDb is a Phoenix secretary embezzles $40,000 from her employer's client, goes on the run, and checks into a remote motel run by a young man under the domination of his mother.
Is it important that it's a Phoenix secretary?
No.
I just find it weird that they threw that into the summary, that a Phoenix secretary.
Well, and it's funny because like the next one, Phoenix office worker Marion Crane. The next one doesn't. Then it's Phoenix-based Marion Crane. Marion Crane is a Phoenix, Arizona working girl fed up with having like all but two.
Yeah, exactly. Want to really hit home that she's from Phoenix.
She's from Phoenix and going to Fairvale.
Perfect. All right. Well, that's the gist of it. So let's get into our first impressions. Mike, you're going to kick us off with first impressions.
I don't know if I need to keep mentioning this, but again, this is a movie that while at a friend's house, different friend, different father recommending a movie. But I had a friend in elementary school and his dad was always like recommending movies and going out and getting us classics and trying to get us into different types of cinema.
Cool.
Yeah. And so I remember this, it was a winter's day and he came home with Psycho.
Nice.
Yeah. So again, elementary students watching a movie that's probably above or beyond them. But first impression, I remember like being like, oh God, it's black and white. Cause that's, the kids' response and being hooked right away. I couldn't believe it. Loved it from the get-go. And I still remember the shock of the main killer dying like an hour into a film,
right,
or even 45 minutes or whatever it is. And then the big twist at the end with Norman Bates.
Yeah.
The overhead shot when she comes running out of the room was like burned into my mind.
Oh, we'll talk about that later. That's in my category. Yeah. I love that shot. Yeah.
Yeah. But so many shots. There's the end with the fade to the skull. Yeah. Just so many things like that just stuck with me and just really resonated for years afterwards. And not in a messed me up way, but just that's how significantly good I thought this film was, even as someone in like grade, I think 4 or 5.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, I did not watch it in elementary school. It took me quite a long time to actually watch this film. I didn't see it till I think I was just coming out of junior high going into high school. And someone had recommended, oh, you like horror movies? And someone recommended it to me. So I picked it up and I rented it and loved it. I just thought it was an amazing film. Mm-hmm. And as you've talked about the shots and the angles that he uses, but also the lighting for a black and white film. Yeah. There's so many times where Bates is lit in this devilish way, even in black and white, that you really pick up on. Mm-hmm. And I love that. I love the talking back and forth between the mom and him and the house. Yeah. When she drives in and sees the house just behind the hotel, like that house is iconic. You can't run up to a motel and not think about that house in the back. I don't care where you are.
Well, I still remember being on the Universal Studio tour when I went there and seeing that house in the back lot and just being awed by it and just like, oh, that's so cool that it's there. But it also kind of ruined the illusion because it's like, oh, it was a studio. Yeah. Right. but it's still cool to see.
But it's super creepy. The design of it, the way it is, the way it's kind of dilapidated, but it's still like a mansion. Yeah. It was really well done. So yeah, I just enjoyed this film thoroughly and I revisit it often. It's one of my go-tos for Halloween or if I just want to watch a good film. So I loved it.
It's one of those movies where it's like, I love Hitchcock and I want to watch more of his movies, but then I just go back to Psycho.
I know. Maybe I'll try this, but I know I like Psycho. So
before we get to our categories, we should actually talk about why we're doing a movie that's outside of our scope.
We definitely should. I forgot to mention that in our intro. This was recommended to us by a listener.
Yes, this is we do have the suggestion site on our page, and this was one of the first movies that was entered there from one of our listeners. Yeah. Yep. There is that, and also in the discussion of horror, like we've looked from 1974, and you and I have talked about like going back with that and sort of looking at the genesis of horror, the origins of it. So Hitchcock is one of those, maybe not what we consider to be horror now, but he is the master of suspense and that. So it's a good entryway into that discussion of his work as well.
Yeah. And so we do kind of we decided instead of just doing Psycho that we would do a different Hitchcock film as well. And so we're kind of doubling up on him. So, and the other Hitchcock film we're doing is Vertigo. So now we're going to move into our categories. So our first one is Tropes Hall of Shame. I'm going to start with that. My trope, and I see this all the time, is car sound effects. The big one for me is every time any car stops in a film, the brakes squeak.
Right.
We need to know that the car is stopping, so let's throw some brake squeak in there.
Otherwise, they'll never know how it came to a stop.
They'll never know that we're coming to a stop. Does nobody in Hollywood get their brakes repaired? I don't know. It's become a real bone of contention for me. When I watch these films, any film now, and there's this squeak thrown in there, why? I don't know. Anyways, it's nitpicky, but it still annoys me.
My first trope is the rich sleazeball.
Oh, yeah. I think I made a comment about that.
In the real estate office.
Yeah.
Just greasy and slimy and hitting on her. Mm-hmm. And I should tell you that I bought the book for this years ago when I worked at Chapters and never read it. It's 150 pages long, so I'm going to read it this weekend.
Oh, yeah. It's just a quick one.
In prep for this. And he's kind of the justification for what Marion does, but also like he's even sleazier in the book. Mm-hmm. There's a comment from her that like he goes into the office one day when it's just her and he puts $100 on the table. Yeah. And he's like, will you come with me to Houston for the weekend? Right. Basically like renting her body. And so because of that, she's like, if $100 is nothing to this guy, then $40,000 is nothing as well. So sort of like he won't miss this money, but I need it. Sam and I need it.
I don't know if she needs it. She's just trying to get Sam out of debt.
Right.
So that she can be with him, right?
Yeah. The book does a much better job of that as well, where she's 27 now and he wants 2 more years to pay off his debt. She'll be 29. She's almost a spinster. So she's worried about waiting that long to be married. It's
so funny because back then you would be an old maid if you weren't married and had a couple of kids by that time, right?
Right. Yeah.
My trope is, it's the building of the suspense with the car in the mud. I mean, it sinks, and then it stops, and then someone's approaching and he's, oh my gosh, I'm going to get caught. And then it sinks in. Now, when I watched this for the first time, or even several other times, it really didn't bother me that much. But this time, because I've seen so many films that use this technique now, I was just, okay, yeah. But at the time, it wouldn't have been a trope. It would have been a very legitimate way to build that tension.
Right.
However, I decided to shit on it because because it has been used to death since then.
My next trope is the big obvious one, but it's, the lonely boy with a mother that's overbearing.
Oh, yeah.
Right. The cause of all of Norman's problems. And since he was a child, she's been that oppressive figure creating the mama's boy. And every mama's boy must have something mentally wrong with them.
Right.
Yeah. My last one, it's not really a trope at the time, but Lila Crane is the first final girl.
Right.
In all of slasher, she's the first female to confront the killer at the end of the film and survive.
Right.
So not a trope in Psycho, but becomes the trope of the final survivor.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So now we're going to fall into our one-liner categories. So Mike, you're going to kick us off. What lines really stood out for you in this?
I had quite a few because I just found this such a quotable film, or so many great lines and great delivery. My first one comes near the beginning, or I guess right at the beginning when they're in the hotel room and they're talking about like doing things deliberately or undeliberately, and just the sort of coquettish way she says, when you're married, you can do a lot of things deliberately.
Right.
Yeah, I really liked that.
I'm going to say the obvious one out of the gate when they're having supper in the study. A boy's best friend is his mother. I just love the way he delivers that line.
Oh, Anthony Perkins is great in this.
He's so good. Boy's best friend is his mother. Just matter of factly.
Yeah.
Everybody thinks this. What you got next there?
It goes to the sleazeball Texan real estate guy buying the property for his daughter.
Oh, yeah.
When she says, I declare, and he's like, I don't. That's how I get to keep it.
My next one was, I just found it humorous. It wasn't really a quote that I thought many people would pick up on, but I think it's just the change of the times and how you cook a steak. Because she says in the hotel room, boil a big steak for 3. It's like, ugh, you're going to boil a steak? So you're just ruining it.
Meat was tough back then.
Really got to tenderize it. Oh, she's got some barbecue sauce because, my God, taking that thing out of a big pot. So yeah, that one, I hit that.
My next one is, again, when they're having dinner in the back office and Norman is talking about his mother and that. And he's like, people always mean well. They cluck their thick tongues and shake their heads and suggest, oh, so very delicately.
Oh, it's so good.
Of course. I've suggested it myself, but I hate to even think about it. She needs me. It's not as if she were a maniac, a raving thing. She just goes a little mad sometimes. We all go a little mad sometimes. Haven't you? Just the delivery of that, the insinuation of he almost knows why she's on the run.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Again, my next one was in the hotel where Marion and Sam are together, and she's trying to convince him that they can be together. And he says, I must have been feeling very emotional at this time, because she says to him, he says, oh, we can stuff my alimony envelopes. You can lick the stamps. And she goes, I'll lick the stamps. And then I wrote underneath, doesn't any man just want a woman to lick the stamps? To be that woman who'll do anything for him. But I don't know what I was thinking. But for some reason, that line stuck. I'll lick the stamp, Sam. So anyways, I wrote that one down.
Yeah. My next one has a little bit of humor to it as well. And it's when Arbogast shows up at the hardware store and he's talking to Sam, and Sam says to the other assistant, Bob, go out and get yourself some lunch. And Bob just believes like, oh, that's okay, Sam. I brought one with me.
Yes.
Then go out and eat it.
Yeah, that was amazing. I love that. Yeah. Go out and eat it.
Take the hint, Bob.
Get out of this room. My next one was, if you love someone, you don't do that to them, even if you hate them. I thought that was a pretty telling line, but yeah.
I have one more, and it's not like it's profound or revealing, but again, there's just so many moments in this movie of beauty or that just hit and sit.
Right.
Even though it might just be a throwaway. And it's when Sam and Lila are talking and they're talking about like the noise outside.
Right.
And he's just like, sometimes Saturday night has a lovely sound.
Oh, I missed that.
Yeah, right. It's just a throwaway line, has nothing to do with the plot. But then you sit there and like, if you meditate on it, it's like, yeah, like it does have a different sound. And like, you just imagine downtown and the noise.
Right.
And,
yeah. It's pretty poetic.
Yeah.
Yeah. I like that. All right. So after that one, we're going to move into what doesn't hold up. I'm going to kick us off with this one. And my first what doesn't hold up is Arbogast falling down the stairs.
Oh, okay.
So I love that shot, that high angle shot where the mom comes out of the bedroom and attacks him. Mm-hmm. But as he's falling down the stairs, it just looks very hokey by today's standards.
Yeah.
So I just didn't like that one as much as his other shots.
In the research, did you see how they came up with that shot?
No, I didn't.
They had the actor, whose name I can't remember, it's whatever, it doesn't matter, but the actor playing Arbogast sit in a chair.
Yeah.
And just like wave his arms around.
Okay.
And then they just filmed the camera going down the stairs.
Right.
And they just had him sit in front of a screen while that shot played behind him.
Oh, so it was like the first green screen kind of introduction, right?
Yeah. So that's why it doesn't hold up, I think.
Yeah. And at the time, I bet you it was groundbreaking and amazing. Alfred Hitchcock really, in his film technique, got a lot of cool shots and did some very innovative things that people took and have built on since then. Mm-hmm. Reminds me of James Cameron in a lot of ways of how he invented things to get what he wanted. And so at the time, I'm sure everybody was just, that's amazing. But looking through this lens, it just looks hokey.
Yeah, I agree.
I just put it down as that. But that's interesting. Thank you for that information.
Yeah, I wasn't trying to defend it.
No, that's fine. I like that shot.
And that ties very well to my what doesn't hold up. And I think it's just, every film until 70 something. It's the driving in front of a screen.
Yeah.
There's a few times where they're on the wrong side of the road. The backgrounds don't match all the time. And it's just the issue of the day, I think.
Yeah. And I also had that one because it just didn't really do it for me there. I did have one more. And what doesn't hold up is it is the sleazeball.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
His character coming in, hey, toots, basically.
Yeah.
You know, why don't you come with me? We're going to go do this. And I mean, he waves this money around and stuff. And you almost kind of cheer her on when she takes it.
Right.
You know it's wrong, but I mean, the guy's such a douchebag that you kind of want him to lose that money. Yeah. So
I was just going to say, like, it's kind of interesting because, like, Marion doesn't fall for it at all. Like, she reads him like a book.
Oh, yeah.
But the other woman's like, oh, he must have just seen my ring. That's why he's not flirting with me.
Oh, yes.
The other thing that didn't hold up for me is the voiceover when she thinks about, like, I don't know. I struggle with it, but it's the voiceover when she's imagining what people are going to be saying about her.
Right.
And her nervousness and what sort of her motivation to change her behaviors or change what she's doing. I get it. Like, movies still do that where you'll get a false memory where suddenly they get caught and then we cut back to them like, oh, and then they do something, the killer does something different or the person does something different.
Right.
So it's still being done in movies. It just, when she's driving and you've got her face acting out the tension, showing that she's nervous.
Yeah.
I don't think we need the voiceover to really oversell what's going on in Marion's mind, but maybe Hitchcock just felt cinema goers needed that.
So I'm going to differ with you on that one because I like that one. I like the fact that we're hearing this banter going on in her head. And at one point you are thinking, well, is this happening while she's driving or is this what she thinks is happening as she's driving away? Is she being paranoid or is this actually building up at the moment in time? Right. Because eventually we realize that the sisters come and nobody's really looking for her except for Abergast, right? So we realize that it is her just kind of knocking around thoughts back and forth.
Right. Yeah.
But at that time, during that scene, I think you kind of get led that the investigation's going on as she's driving away.
I guess, yeah. Or it could be the police officer talking to the used car salesman.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
What's going on here? So I kind of liked it, but I can understand where you're coming from. All right. So now we're going to go into most gratuitous. Mike, you're going to kick us off with that one.
For me, it was, I wouldn't say this is an overuse or overly grotesque or overly gory, but it's the over explanation of Norman's condition at the end of the movie.
That was critically panned, seen as the flaw of the film, right?
Yeah. If you've paid attention to the film, you understand what's been going on. You understand how it happened. It does give information into the murder of his mother and her lover and all of that.
Right.
But then it just feels like it just really has to punch home on, and that is why he's got this problem. That is what happened. So for me, that was what was most gratuitous. Although, again, Hitchcock feels that's what saved his movie, was that speech.
Yeah, because that guy, the person, I don't have it.
Yeah, I don't have his name either.
Who acted that character, the psychiatrist, but he nailed that whole scene in one take.
Right. Yeah.
He just came in and when Hitchcock saw it, that's in the research I have too. When Hitchcock saw it, he was, you saved my film. And it's funny how the critics think that's the weakest part of the whole film, whereas he was thinking, that's amazing. That's the rest of the film was in jeopardy until that scene. It's crazy.
It's weird because there's something that came up in our Vertigo discussion about that film and Hitchcock's sort of dislike or hesitancy with it. So it's interesting that he's this master and he does create these great films, but even with Psycho and what it was, he still didn't think it was perfect or was going to be any good until that.
Yeah. My most gratuitous was, again, it's not gory. It's a scene that took me kind of out of the film. It's the rain.
Oh, okay.
And how it just ends.
Oh.
When she comes in and it's raining cats and dogs, like it's full on downpour. And then he goes to get fresh linens or whatever he does. And he comes back and it's not raining anymore.
Yeah. The rain has served the narrative purpose. Therefore,
and now it's done. Yeah. So that was my big one. There's not a whole lot else to say. I love the fact that she got there. It was raining. She couldn't see. She's like, I got to get off the road. We already established that when she's tired and on the run, she's sleeping in her car and the cop found her.
Yeah.
And then she drives away and he kind of decides to follow her. And then she's like, well, I got to get off the road. So I do like the fact that it was a storm, which is kind of a trope, a dark and stormy night. But I didn't like the fact that it just, boom, done. And then it seemed like everything was fine. It was dry. Everything was good.
That's California weather, I guess.
I guess. So we're going to go into terrifying or titillating. And my scene, of course, is the shower scene. It's still very well done and terrifying and titillating as she gets in there and starts showering. I just love the shadow coming through. The door slowly opens, the shadow comes up and wink, wink, wink. So that is my terrifying and titillating scene.
That was mine as well. I just put like Janet Leigh is so pretty, but then I put like a shocking amount of skin for the 1960s.
For sure.
Yeah. I remember watching a making of or a documentary about Psycho years ago.
Yep.
And they talked about how, and this came up actually in my research, but they talked about how audiences to this day are like adamant that there's nipple and there's like, you see nipple and it's like,
really?
Yeah, but there's no nudity. Like Hitchcock's like, no, we went through frame by frame to make sure we got as much skin as we could, but nothing explicit was shown. But I think it's just because it's all so fast, right? And the mind will fill in gaps and
right. Well, and it does get that one click around her stomach. It does, I don't know, not really close, but there are a lot of flashes, right? Because it's so quick cut. So we're going to move on from there. We're going to go into stood the test of time. I'm going to start that. And again, I'm going to say stood the test of time with black and white. The shower scene blood really worked. The chocolate syrup that they use. I think everybody knows that by now. I don't have to mention that in the research, but they use the chocolate syrup and the way it mixes with the water and goes down the drain and everything just looks still really, really good today. So that was my one stood the test of time.
My first stood the test of time is the tension at the used car lot where the police officer's across the street and he's watching to see what's going on. And she's just trying to rush the sale. It's like, oh, this is the first time a buyer's ever strong armed the salesman.
I know.
But it's just so good because it's like, even though I've seen the movie, is she going to get caught? Is he going to walk over there and stop it? It's so well done.
Yeah. And I love the fact that he doesn't even move. He just sits there on his car staring at her through his policeman's sunglasses and she's all right, let's go. Yeah. No, I really enjoy that. Yeah. My other stood the test of time is I loved the very end where Norman's hearing his mom and I'm going to be as what's the fly quote?
Oh, she wouldn't hurt a fly.
He wouldn't hurt a fly, they'll say.
Yeah.
And I love how it just kind of slowly zooms in to him as he's going through and then that smirk at the end till we fade to black. It's just so well done. Yeah. I just love that scene.
It's so good. I had a couple of test of times that I almost want to lump together.
Okay.
Because it's the common thread of Anthony Perkins. So I had just written test of time. Norman Bates is wonderfully awkward. Like, the way that Anthony Perkins portrays him and acts just in that sort of nervous, naive, unknowing person, but also there's a slight confidence there, but it's not like there's a weakness and strength in that just comes across so well.
Yep.
And then, so I'm going to tie that just because Anthony Perkins, again, the interactions between him and Janet Leigh, the conversation in the office, even just checking her in where it's like, he's this lonely, well, in the book, he's 40, but 20 something year old, 30 something year old. Yeah. And this beautiful woman comes in, he doesn't know how to behave around her. And he's like,
it's very awkward.
Just so awkward. Yeah. So good.
I know I have littered throughout my notes. Perfect casting. Anthony Perkins is amazing. He just does such a good job in this film. Mm-hmm. And I feel bad that his career didn't really move forward after this.
Right.
He Psycho spawned 3 other Psychos, right? I think it goes to Psycho 4.
I think so, yeah.
Yeah. And he's Norman Bates in each one of them. I watched Psycho 2. I didn't watch any of the other ones.
Yeah, I think I saw Psycho 2 and that's it as well.
And I feel bad that he didn't get a chance to do other roles that would have challenged him as an actor because he just was so good in this film.
Yeah.
I think we missed out. Do you have any others stood the test of times?
I did, and I mentioned this one in my first impressions, but it is the fact that at 48 minutes in, our main character dies. I was watching this movie with Louise, who has never seen Psycho before.
Oh, awesome.
And so when Marion gets it, she goes, what? Oh my God. they killed the movie's about her. Like, she was just shaken by it. She couldn't believe that how would a movie even do that? What are you going to do for like another hour of cinema?
Yeah.
It's so good to do that to your audience where it's like, we are going to follow this person, make you think it's all about them, and then just Nope, it's not.
Yep. One of the things I also liked in my next stood the test of time was the police cruiser when he busts Marion at the side of the road and then says, okay, move along. And then he follows her for a while, and he follows her for quite a while, and she's looking in her rearview mirror. And then he just exits.
Yeah.
And then she thinks, okay, I'm safe. And then he just reappears. But what I liked about that is they didn't have him turn his sirens on or his lights on and speed by her in the old way that, oh, I'm getting pulled over again.
Right. Yeah.
And then he has another call. He just kind of exits, but then he returns.
Yeah. It was so good.
I like that.
I had the mirror jump scare written down. I have no idea what that is.
Oh, is that when she goes into the room? When the sister goes into Mom's room?
Right.
Yeah, she turns around.
Oh, and sees herself.
In the mirror.
Right. Okay.
Yeah. And then it's just, and she freaks out.
Yeah, I had that as a test of time because it got me, I guess.
Oh.
Yeah.
I had, as a test of time also, the imprint in the bed.
Oh, yeah. So gross.
I said so disturbing. It's just this deep imprint laying sideways on the bed. Just, ugh.
Well, and then it's like, it's him curled up in the fetal position beside her corpse.
Yeah.
You think, oh, that's where Mom laid. No, that's where Norman is laying.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I agree. That is a good one.
Yeah. So now we're going to move into eerie to ear splitting. Mike, you're going to kick us off this one.
Sometimes I feel bad going first for some of these because it's the obvious and easy answer, but the opening theme music.
Oh, yeah.
So good. And again, it's one of those movie themes where you just know it, right?
Yeah.
You can hear it from anywhere. And it's like, oh, that's the opening theme to Psycho.
Right.
Yeah. Always a good one.
Mine is the shower scene, the strings and the attack. Yeah. It's so well done and it is so creepy and disturbing and still holds today.
Yeah.
So I put that one. Yeah.
And actually that ties well with my second one, which was the silence up to that.
Right.
It's just
you just hear the shower,
bathroom noises and the shower running.
Yeah.
And then you know this is coming. And again, Hitchcock doesn't require any music because it's like you see that shadow coming in and it's just, oh, it's so creepy.
Yeah. I'll mention this now because we're talking about it. Hitchcock actually wanted it silent.
Oh.
That whole scene, he didn't want those strings in there, but then the composer convinced him and played it for him while the shower scene was going on in the editing room or something like that. And then he said, okay, we'll use it.
That's one thing. The more I read about Hitchcock, as demanding and controlling as he was, he definitely gave space to the people he worked with, right? Like he wasn't the type of director who's like, no, this is my movie and I refuse.
Right.
Like he saw the value of what other people brought to it. So that is a cool story to this one.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so now we're going to move into our next category. This is a newer one for us. This is our what the fuck moments. So I'm going to kick this one off, and I think it's the obvious one. It's the end, the reveal. If you've never seen this film and you come in with fresh eyes and you watch it and get that reveal at the end, you're just, what? When he explains it, whether that scene is needed, I don't know. It's in there, fine. I love that last scene, and when he's talking as the mother, it's just so well done, and so I love that part.
That is my what the fuck moment as well. It just
How could it not be, right?
I laughed so hard because the expression on his face, like I know he's acting crazed, and he just. Comes in, I am Norma Bates, like slopes down the stairs. Like I put when she finds mother and he runs in like he's from Kids in the Hall. It was almost laughable. But again, I was sitting beside Louise who hadn't seen it before, and she was just shocked and blown away by it, and she didn't see it coming at all. Of course, like nobody really would, because up to that point, until the corpse turns around, you have no idea. So when the corpse does turn, Louise like, what? Huh? Like she was so lost, and then all of a sudden just, you get the maniac
running in with the knife. I do agree when Sam grabs him from behind and he just kind of falls apart. It's a little weird. That the facial expression is probably the weakest moment of Anthony Perkins acting in that film. It's pretty silly. And I remember even watching it the first time and being, what? Why is he making that face? Is he in pain? And then at one point, the dress is just very haphazardly put on. The wig's kind of askew. He's. I don't have time to get into the full regalia. Let's just go. There's some killing to do. Yeah. Okay, we're going to move on to our back it up moments. Mike, you're going to kick us off.
My first one is the scene on the side of the highway with the cop.
Right. Yep.
Again, it's the tension and she thinks she's been found out, and so you're not quite sure what's going to happen to her. It's unfortunate that she's so awkward because, of course, that's what makes him curious and then follow her and keep investigating. But again, it's just that the way it's shot from inside when he like comes up to the window. Everything was so well done.
My back it up moment is the dinner in the office with Norman Bates and Marion. The conversation they have, and I mean, he's so nice. It's like, oh, you want to have dinner with me? It's just sandwiches and milk, but it's food. And she kind of tries. She's, I don't know, maybe. And then she gets in there and you see it's quite a roller coaster.
It is,
with him, right? He's nice. And then he's, well, wait a second. Don't talk bad about my mother.
Right.
But I'll say this.
You can't say it, but I can. And that's how I'll win you back.
Yeah. So I like that one.
That's actually my second back it up, which is just the way that his tone and expression changes when she says, you should put your mom somewhere.
Yes.
Maybe you could put her somewhere. And he just instantly, like his
demeanor, his whole demeanor changes.
Everything changes. It's like, well, why would you say that? It's an institution is what you mean when you say somewhere. And it was just so creepy. And that psychosis underneath there was the fact that he could bring it out like that was so well done.
It's really hard to watch because he goes into this different place and you see when the camera pans over or flashes over to Janet Leigh and her facial expression as he's kind of losing it is awesome. Like she just really sells the fact that, hey, this guy's not all there.
Yeah, so good.
I guess my other back it up moment is the painting where you really see how creepy he is, where he moves in the office room and he's peering into her room and watching her get undressed and getting ready to get to bed. And he's just creepily watching her the whole time.
Yeah. And have you seen the Gus Van Sant remake?
Yes, unfortunately, but a long time ago. I wouldn't say I remember a bunch of it, but Vince Vaughn actually masturbates when that happens, which I thought added nothing to it.
No, if anything, it detracted. Yeah. It's like we understand we're supposed to get that he's a pervert, he's creepy. Yeah. But then, that it's Gus Van Sant's like, I'm making a shot for shot remake, but I'm adding in this for no reason. Like, there's no subtext there.
No. All right. So now we're going to go into our newer category as well, hiding in the shadows. So these are things that just we couldn't find a category for. Mike, you're going to kick us off with that.
My first one, and this is almost a back it up, almost a test of time, but it wasn't quite there. But it's when Arbogast is in the office.
Right.
And he asks to see the register.
Yes.
And while Arbogast is bent over looking at the ledger, the camera isn't focused there. The camera follows Perkins.
Yeah.
And you just see him, like you read his face while you see this like nervousness and this trepidation and hesitancy comes across. I just thought that was so good.
What I liked about, there's two interrogations with Norman Bates, one by Arbogast and one by Sam. And Arbogast really is quite kind with Norman.
Yes. Yeah.
He's, so maybe you did forget. I know sometimes that happens. And he really kind of gives Norman these outs. Mm-hmm. Even though he's, cornering him, he's giving him ways to explain himself. Whereas Sam just comes in and bullies him.
Right. Yeah.
And you really see Norman, as soon as Sam comes in, not comfortable with him being there.
Yeah.
And he's almost angry to a point where I'm just going to kill this guy right away. So.
And it's so interesting that you bring that up because in the book, they play very differently.
Oh, okay.
Well, the Sam scene does because Norman is super nervous and he does the slip up about like, well, no, she just went to bed. And then he mentions the dinner. It's like, oh, well, yeah, no, she did have dinner. And right, there's that whole thing.
See, so there you go. She had dinner, right? Yeah.
And because of that, the book is mostly from Norman's perspective.
Okay.
Because of that, he's telling himself, like, we cannot make those mistakes. We have to memorize our story. We have to have it straight. So when the next people come, and they will come, I am ready. And so when Sam and Lila show up, Norman is much more confident, much more certain and sure in his answers. And so Lila's like, just go in there and attack him. And Sam's like, well, hold on. We can't just go at him that way, you know, because then something might go wrong.
Yeah.
And so when there's this in the scene when Sam's talking to Norman in the office and he doesn't know that Lila's going up to the house, Norman is 100% in control of the conversation.
Oh, interesting.
And is like just answering very plainly, talking very plainly. And then when Sam thinks like, I've got the upper hand, Norman's like, well, she drove away, but you didn't see her stop, did you? Because she stopped because she's going to go to the house. And then like things go on and then he smashes the bottle over Sam's head and knocks him out.
Right.
So it's a very different scene because Norman is confident and strong in it. It's a very good part, like a very good twist.
It would have been cool to see that
in the movie.
Yeah.
But I think the physique of the two, in the book, he's 40 years old, bald and overweight. Yeah. Whereas like he's so slight and Sam Loomis is this muscular dude, man. Yeah.
I guess, you know, now that I think about it, if I could add what doesn't hold up, the fight scene between Sam and Norman Bates.
Right.
Where they're just kind of Star Trek fighting. And then he hits him with the bottle and it knocks him out, right?
Yeah.
It's very easy to knock people out in Hollywood when it's convenient to the story.
It is.
Other times people be taking lead pipes and they still don't get knocked out. So yeah, just looking back at that, kind of annoying.
I had a couple other small ones.
Sure, go ahead.
It's like $40,000. How much? I know that's still a theft. But I was like, how much is that? And with inflation, it's $343,000.
No, that's a good chunk of change.
Yeah. Because it's like, oh, I don't want $40,000 in my office. And it's like, well, lots of stores have that much money just sitting around.
Yeah.
Like bigger stores anyway, like Costco back in the day before debit and credit.
Yeah.
So I just thought that was interesting. And then the other one I had was just a little question of like, why does Arbogast always get out of his car on the passenger side?
That's interesting. Like, yeah. I never really paid attention to that.
Yeah. It made no sense. Like I thought like, well, is the door like, but they never established that the door's jammed or it doesn't work. Right. It's just the first time he gets out of his car, he slides across and gets out. The second time.
Yeah.
I'm like, what is with his car?
Well, it's at the bottom of a mud pit now, so it doesn't.
Yeah. Now, no matter.
Okay, we're going to go into our bonus features where we do some of our research on the film. The first thing is that the studio didn't want to make this film. Hitchcock had to convince them that he was going to do a good job. He shot it in black and white to save money. He had already filmed 8 movies in color, so there was no reason for him to have to shoot it in black and white. He just did it because it saved money for him. And he used crew from the TV show Alfred Hitchcock Presents to save money as well. So I thought that was kind of interesting. Mm-hmm. Mike, do you have some?
Just on the idea of like the studio not wanting to go in doing it on the cheap. The budget was $800,000.
Yep.
And the box office worldwide was 50 million.
Yeah.
Like it made 32 million in the US theatrical and then the rest overseas. Like
that's crazy.
Yeah. For a movie that the studio didn't want to make.
Yeah. I'm sure many people know this, but it was based on a real serial killer, Ed Gein, who also spawned some other famous horror movies. Silence of the Lambs,
Chainsaw Massacre as well.
Chainsaw Massacre are all based on that serial killer. And we had mentioned before that in the novel, Norman Bates was 40, overweight and balding, whereas Anthony Perkins is 28 at the time of this filming and quite slender and tall.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I was listening to the audio commentary before I ran out of time, so I didn't get that far into the film. But Stephen Rebello, who's done a Making of Psycho documentary, was talking about the opening shot.
Okay.
And Hitchcock wanted it to be a 4-mile dolly shot on a helicopter, basically, that would go over the town and then into the window.
Yeah.
And I guess Gus Van Zant's version opens that way.
Oh, okay.
With that shot realized, but it was too expensive and complicated. So that's why they have those sort of cross cuts and fades of sort of cameras just panning on rooftops.
Right.
And then it's meant to replicate the flight of a fly. So basically from the beginning of the film, we're a fly on the wall watching this take place. Yeah.
Yeah. I had a special 6-foot shower head was made so it would spray around the camera lens without getting wet.
Yeah, that was cool.
So that's pretty crazy that they did that. And when Marion flushes the toilet, it was the first toilet flushing ever seen or heard in a Hollywood film.
Yeah. And the story behind that's interesting too.
Yeah, they didn't even want that scene in there, first of all, and they definitely didn't want a toilet in the shot.
Yeah. And so Hitchcock said to his screenwriter, like, I want it in there. You need to write it so it's pertinent to the story.
Right.
So that's why, like, in the book, she doesn't do the math on her money. But in the movie, yeah, she tears it up, throws it in, and has to dispose of the evidence. And therefore, they could justify the toilet flush.
Yeah.
Yeah. So cool. So weird.
I know. Shower scene took a week to film. I had that as well.
Yeah, over 70 camera angles.
Wow.
Yeah. Just on that, the body double that was used, her name was Marley Renfro.
Yeah.
And she was only paid $500 for that week of work.
Wow.
Yeah. And then the other thing I like, just while we're on the shower, is this was from Film Companion, but talking about how Janet Leigh wasn't bothered when filming the shower scene, but when she saw it in the finished film, disturbed her so much she only took baths for the rest of her life.
Wow. No way.
Yeah. Which is crazy because, like, she was the actress in the scene.
So she knows how it was all put together. I had an interesting thing that I found is Hitchcock didn't really like his actors to improvise. So there's a quote where he says actors should be treated like cattle. And in Psycho, he let Perkins and Janet Leigh kind of have a looser leash, I guess. Not free reign, but he let them improvise a little bit with the script. One of the famous things is Anthony Perkins started eating candy corn, and he thought that it added this tension. So when he's getting interrogated, he just starts popping this candy corn, and you see him chewing on it and his muscles in his jaw clenching, and he's getting nervous, and he just keeps eating this candy corn. And Hitchcock saw him do that and liked it so much, he said, yeah, that's in the film. We're going to keep that.
Yeah, it's so good. Yeah. So we talked about the music, right, in the shower scene and how Hitchcock originally didn't want it. And there is other parts where it's like, you know, the last quote saved the film, but Hitchcock thought the film wasn't that good until he did see it with a score, like in its entirety. And he's known to have said that 33% of the effect of Psycho was due to the music. So the overall film, not just the shower scene, but yeah. We've done these a few other times where we've talked about like who could have been in the roles or what could have been different.
Oh, yeah.
And this one's interesting because I can't see it now, but I think looking back at their early career, I could. Leslie Nielsen was considered for the role of Sam Loomis.
Oh, I did hear that. Yeah.
And when you think of like Leslie Nielsen from Airplane and Naked Gun, like it just wouldn't work. But he was quite the dramatic actor back then.
That's what I heard. Yeah.
I think he could have done a good job with it.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Another part that I thought was quite interesting from Film Companion, they're talking about the symbolism of Janet Leigh's bra and purse.
Right.
And at the beginning of the film, she has a white bra and a white purse. But then after she steals the money,
it's black.
Black bra, black purse. So just symbolizing her taint or her sin. I
also thought there was a lot of bra shots for this time in filmmaking.
Yeah.
In the 60s, she was in right at the beginning. She's just getting dressed, obviously, after having an affair with Sam.
Yeah.
And then she's wandering around. She's getting ready for the shower. A lot of skin for this time. Yeah.
And I was reading on a website and they were talking about how Hitchcock put in a lot of extra stuff in those scenes that he knew wouldn't get past the censors, but it was stuff that he didn't really want in his film anyway. So he added in probably more sensuous or gratuitous shots or explicit shots of some sort. Right. So when he took it to the board, they're like, no, you've got to cut X, Y, Z. He's like, sure. And so he kept in the stuff he wanted anyway, but because they were happy with the cuts he took out, they're like, yeah, we'll let it go through. Yeah. And so that's why there's a scene where...
This is a smart cookie.
Yeah. The scene of her belly where the knife is actually going into the skin shouldn't have made it into the final cut based on the standards back then.
Yeah.
But because he took out other stuff that they were like, no, you got to take that out. They're like, it's all good. or they didn't notice it, right? Other things were too much that they didn't notice the stuff that he subtly got through. Yeah. I've talked a bit about reading the book and the differences there. And one thing that's kind of interesting is when Hitchcock bought the rights to the book, and the book only came out a couple years before the movie, he bought as many copies of it as he could. So he paid $9,000 for the rights to the book and then bought as many copies as he could to basically pull it out of circulation.
Oh, he wanted to keep it a secret.
Yeah, because he didn't want the audiences to know like
what was happening or the final reveal or whatever. Yeah. Could you imagine trying to make something like that now? No, it'd just be impossible.
The spoilers. Right? Yeah. And then just a couple other differences, like Marion's only in 2 chapters in the book.
Really?
Yeah. Like she's such a small part because it really is Norman's story.
Yes.
Yeah. Not Marion's and the search for Marion's story.
This one becomes Norman's story. It starts as Marion, and then after the big death scene, then it really focuses on Norman and him trying to get away.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Which is interesting. This movie is like just 2 characters trying to get away with crime, and yet we cheer for both of them.
Yeah.
in a way.
I know.
Like Hitchcock does a good job at getting us to sympathize with two sort of nasty people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, he paints Sam in kind of a negative light to begin with, right? Because first of all, he's not that there's anything wrong with being divorced, but he's a divorcee and he's having an affair in this cheap motel.
Yeah.
And then when Marion's sister Lila comes to visit and find out if Marion is there, he doesn't even know what the heck's going on. Like he hasn't tried to contact her. He's just in his shop. What's going on? I don't know.
Yeah. See, and the book,
haven't seen her.
the book is a bit better there too. Because in the book, it's his dad died with a lot of debt.
Oh, okay.
And so Sam is just simply, he had to sell off the store and everything to try to pay off the creditors. And he's slowly trying to rebuild himself back into solvency.
Right.
And Marion's like, I want to marry you now. And he's like, well, no, because the people that are trusting me and my creditors know that everything I do is to pay back my debts. And if I start living well because you want to get married early,
right,
they're going to stop trusting me. So you need to wait 2 years so that I can honestly pay back my creditors and then we can have a good life. So it's very different there. Mm-hmm. And then it does talk about how like they used to write letters back and forth all the time.
Right.
And the last letter he received from her was before she took the money, and he had written her and hadn't heard back since. And so he was concerned and was wondering. But because he's so busy with his shop, he couldn't go to Phoenix to find out what was wrong.
Yeah, so we don't get that in the film though. We just kind of see him as, oh, now I'm concerned because nobody knows where she is. So I'll help you out and we'll go look.
Yeah.
But before that, we see him in one scene and then we don't see him again till near the end of the film.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a flaw. I'm sure our listeners like, we get it. You can read, but just you mentioned like the book, like Norman's story. The book opens with Norm, and it's a great first chapter. Like it really establishes this book is all about death, but he's reading a book about Aztecs, and it describes how they would use the corpses of their foes or their enemies as drums, and they would like crack open the chest and tighten the skin across it and drum.
Oh yeah.
And so it talks about this thump, thump, thump of a drum beat coming out of the mouths of these dead enemies. And while he's reading that, his mom is lecturing him about the fact that he's not turned on the sign. He's not taking care of the motel. And then it talks about the thump, 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 the voice of the dead coming out of the drum, sort of paralleled with his mom lecturing. So right away in the book, they're sort of giving away death and the sound of voices coming from a dead body because she's dead.
Right.
Yeah. Really like the book. Really good read. Don't watch the movie, read the book. No. Yeah. The last one is just in the book. Mary is beheaded in the shower.
Yeah, and I did read about that one, and they said, well, Hitchcock said, we can't take her head off.
Yeah.
He's no, we're not doing that. Yeah. So, but I did read about that, and I thought, wow, that gets pretty insane. I don't know how they would have been able to pull that one off at that time. Like now, even with the remade version, they could have probably done something like that, but now they would.
Yeah.
Nobody would even bat an eye. But at that time, it would be pretty you had people puking in the aisles.
Yeah. Well, and I think it's better with the hacking and the slashing. And
I think it is too. I don't think we need to get that crazy violent with it. We get it. He hacked her to death. Then he wraps her up in a curtain and hucks her into the pond. I mean, I think we're gross enough. Yep. Okay, now after that, we're going to move into our watchability scale. So, Mike, out of 10, what would you rate Psycho?
I don't know. Like Perkins alone, I want to give the movie a 10.
Right.
But there are a few flaws. There are the things that don't hold up. And because of those things that don't quite hold up, or those things that take me out of it a little bit, I'm going to drop it down to a 9.
Yeah, I'm a 9. I was debating whether this was going to be my 10 or not, but then I looked at a few things when I was doing the research and watching the film again. I was, I don't think it's quite perfect.
Yeah.
So no, I agree. A 9's good.
Yeah.
All right. So thank you very much for listening to us. Remember to follow us on Instagram. We are at Screams Stream Pod. Stop by our website, www.screamsandstreams.com, where we have information about our episodes, descriptions of our categories, links to our research, our watchability scale, where we rank all of the films we are looking at, and a page where you can recommend movies you want us to discuss. Please rate, comment on, and subscribe to our show on any platform where you get your podcasts. Until next time, this has been Chad and
Mike.
Scare you later.